To be totally honest, Owen just wants to get out, start the game as quickly as possible. The best possible draw is either going to be 3 1-drops in the first 2 turns, or a 1-drop followed by a Burning Tree Emissary and a 2-drop. And then hopefully Owen's Mutavaults and cards like Chandra's Phoenix will be able to take care of things after Wrath.
So for the most part, he's not going to overextend as much. He's not going to worry about Supreme Verdict.
Yeah, I don't think he can worry about Supreme Verdict. If he gives Max too much time, Jace, Sphinx's Revelation are going to be big problems for him.
Yeah, so Max is playing straight blue-white control. We've seen a lot of different archetypes on that today. He's actually has a couple interesting cards in his deck right now. He's playing, as a card drawer, we lost Think Twice, he's playing 3 Divinations and 2 Elspeth Sun's Champions.
Yeah, Divination seems to be the go-to card for people hitting their land drops now that Think Twice is rotated.
All right, so we see Owen starting the game. Owen's on the draw. Max let off in the plains, and Owen starts with Foundry Street Denizen. Max actually had to read the card. Kind of an unassuming 1-drop, just a 1/1 in block, but actually usually gets in for about 2 damage a turn.
Yeah, it's really impressive, especially with the Burning Tree Emissary draws. We might even see it attack for 3 if Owen has a good draw.
All right, so Max now with blue-white up, representing possible Syncopates, possible Azorius Charms.
Yeah, he's even got 1 Essence Scatter here, so we'll see what happens.
All right, so we have Gorehouse Chainwalker off a Mutavault for Owen. We're going to see if it resolves. It does, and Foundry Street Denizen swings in for 2, so no plays for Max right now, and he'll go to 18. On Max's side, we see no plays yet. We see here Foundry Street Denizen, so remember, he gets pumped off red creatures entering the battlefield. So kind of as you said there, he actually works really well with the triple 1-drop opening or the Burning Tree Emissary starts.
Yeah, and it looks like Max has one of his 2 of Ratchet Bombs, which is a huge card in this matchup. Comes down, it's great against the 1-drops and also great against Owen's Glut of 2-drops.
Yeah, so Owen's deck is pretty much all on 1s and 2s. Right now, I'm gonna guess that the Max just tries to basically cash out the Ratchet Bomb as soon as possible here.
Yeah, I think he's gonna focus on preserving his life total, but it looks like Owen's not gonna give him the opportunity to get too much value, just attacking with the Mutavault.
All right, so that's a swing for 6, Mutavault, Foundry Street Denizen, and Gorehouse Chainwalker. Max will drop to 12. And we see here on Max, he's continuing to make land drops. It looks like he has an Azorius Charm at the very least. I don't know if he has the turn for Verdict right now. It seems like though Owen's playing around Verdict. That's something I don't think the block deck was entirely able to do.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting spot. The Mutavault really helps that Owen was able to apply pressure without using cards from his hand. But he also sort of knows about the Wrath in Ratchet Bomb. It's face up. He's not questioning whether Max has it. He's just trying to make it as awkward as possible.
All right, so we see another draw. Owen has at least 2 more lands, so kind of heavy for mono red here. He drew Fire Drinker Satyr this turn, opts to make no more creatures, and just continue and presses the 6 damage a second time.
Yeah, there's really no reason for him to cast it there. Looks like a Quicken from Max.
Yeah, that's actually, the Quicken's a 1-of in Max's deck. Maybe it's to turn his, Divination I think is his only sorcery right here.
Yeah, there are no sorceries that Max can play at instant speed this turn, so Quicken was just a what's the card from Kamigawa block?
It's like
Peer Through Mists.
Reach Through Mists.
Reach Through Mists, yeah.
So he's digging for, you'd think maybe an Azorius Charm, possibly. I don't know if he has one already, but, is there a specific thing I'm trying to think if there's a specific thing he's digging for right now when he's casting that Quicken.
Yeah, he's just trying to get all the information possible before he makes a decision, sort of sculpt his next couple turns, I would think. Though I wouldn't be surprised here to see an Azorius Charm on the Chainwalker. I suppose the Mutavault as well if he was planning on activating Ratchet Bomb.
Right, so Ratchet Bomb goes for 1. All it takes is Foundry Street Denizen, and just as you said there, Azorius Charm played on Chainwalker. Max will drop to 10 though off the Mutavault. Now with the board clear, Owen makes some follow-up.
Yeah, Owen did a really good job there of making sure Max got minimum value out of that Ratchet Bomb, and we'll see whether playing it so slowly comes back to bite him in the end.
Yeah, so from the control side, obviously Max wants to get, the 2-for-1 or 3-for-1. Is it about if you say there's this card advantage aspect for the control deck, and at the same time there's also just, how many turns can I stay alive aspect?
Yeah, I think especially with Max's deck, preserving his life total is really all that matters. He's just trying to get to a big Revelation or an Elspeth. And Owen demonstrated that he wasn't going to give him an opportunity to use the Ratchet Bomb effectively. So
we see Fire Drinker Satyr from Owen. That'll get gives Max an opportunity to land Jace, Architect of Thought. He immediately pluses it up to 5.
Yeah, Jace is a really great card against these decks with all just small creatures, and it's a card that we didn't see a ton of in the last standard format, but I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot more of.
Yeah, so and you see Owen shocks it down to 3. The reason we didn't see it, why didn't we see it last standard?
I think it's a combination of creatures simply just being too big. Jace is really a great card against lots of small creatures and not too good against one large creature. So things, and especially haste creatures, things like Thundermaw, Hellkite, Wolfear, Silverheart, these are all cards that really punish Jace.
Right, so we see Owen now. He has the Jace at 3, Max is at 10. He kind of has to determine whether or not he's attacking the Jace or... I mean, it seems to me because his deck's all 2 powers, like he has to remove the Jace.
Yeah, I think Owen demonstrated with the shock on Max's end step that that's the direction he was going to go. But it's possible that Owen drew a card this turn that makes him want to change his mind.
Yeah, actually, so this turn he drew, I believe, Gorehouse Chainwalker for the turn.
Yeah, he did. That was on top from the Azorius Charm. So he had it all set up, and looks like he's pumping the Satyr to hopefully take down Jace here.
That'll be enough damage to take out the Jace. So Max, the Jace kind of just was it ate a shock and ate a turn, so it's like pretty much a large life gain spell. You said before with preserving your life total, that seems to be what's important.
Yeah, exactly. And hopefully if you're Max, you have some kind of big spell to follow that up and gain some traction here.
It looks like Max has a Detention Sphere. He also has a Revelation. I do not believe he has a 6th land at the moment, though.
I think Max might actually have a Mutavault, although that in his hand, although I don't know what he drew for turn. Mutavault, if Max had it, would be a really key card here because it's a land and a spell to interact with Owen.
So Max is going to go ahead and Detention Sphere the Fire Drinker Satyr. He's not feeling under too much pressure, and absolutely right, does have a Mutavault.
Yeah, so Mutavault here, helps Max get ahead, hopefully get a bigger Revelation, but it also just threatens to block one of Owen's creatures. It trades with basically every creature in Owen's deck, and even gets around the Goblin Shortcutters.
Yeah, I saw that actually. So Owen's playing, his deck's all 4 ofs except for 2 Goblin Shortcutters. I don't know, were you involved in building the deck, discussing the deck list at all?
We definitely discussed it. I didn't actually know they were playing the Shortcutters until last night. But Owen was telling me a story about Goblin Shortcuttering and Aetherling earlier today that worked out pretty well for him. So.
Oh wow, okay, so he actually... That's excellent. So Owen drops 2 creatures. He plays Gorehouse Chainwalker and Fire Fist Striker. That's going to meet the Supreme Verdict that's in Max's hand. Max down to 1 card. The bad news for Owen is that 1 card is Sphinx's Revelation. Yeah,
it looks like Max found the perfect turn to turn the corner. He's going to survive, hopefully on tap to cast that Revelation. It's interesting here, there's a chance he would want to activate Mutavault, and his Revelation would be 1 smaller, but it'd preserve 2 life.
And if you're Owen, you've got to be really, like, the fact that Max didn't make that trade suggests that there's a revelation here of some sort.
It could also just suggest that Max was afraid of a shock or lightning strike that Owen obviously wouldn't have cast up until that point since Max hasn't played a creature yet. But yeah, looks like we got a Revelation for 5 here.
Yeah. Land 8, Revelation for 5 sends Max up to 13. Currently Owen just has a Gorehouse Chainwalker on the board and a Mutavault. A couple of cards in hand. Among the cards drawn by Max is one of the new ones out of Theros for Blade Control is Elspeth Sun's Champion.
Yeah, Elspeth is really going to be a great card here. Should shut down Owen's attack unless he has a Chandra's Phoenix.
So we see drawn Syncopate, Elspeth Sun's Champion, Dissolve, a couple more lands for Max. So you said Chandra's Phoenix is one way Owen has to get past Elspeth. Is it possible to say that's his only way, that's probably his only game to get past Elspeth?
Yeah, in game 1 he doesn't really have much to deal with an Elspeth, and it looks like Max is going to cast Elspeth here with a Dissolve in hand, and Max looks to be in a great position.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those situations where I would say he really has turned the corner in the matchup.
Yeah, definitely. He kept his life total relatively high early, although looks like we got a Lightning Strike.
See where it's targeting. He's either trying to... This will be interesting to see whether he goes at Max's Dome or tries to take down the Elspeth.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Max doesn't have that information until the spell resolves, so he doesn't know exactly what to do with his Dissolve. It's like Max lets that resolve.
And it goes to the Dome, so it's down to 5. Owen now with 2 cards. He has 5 Mountains and a Mutavault, Gorehouse Chainwalker facing down 3 Soldier tokens off Elspeth.
Yeah, and this is sort of a, just a bad situation for Owen, though attacking in with the Chainwalker. Interesting that Max would only block with 2 soldiers, just in case Owen had shock there.
Right, you mean it's the kind of play where, yes, he could please +1 soldier, but
yeah, I think Max is probably more than happy if Owen sends a shock at a soldier there. Max is just going to make 3 more the next turn.
All right, so Elspeth making 3 more soldiers. It seems like this matchup I'm not sure, does Elspeth... So, obviously Max can win the game anyway, right? There's a lot of ways he can win it once he establishes control. Like, is the emblem important, or is the Elspeth just basically just keeps making tokens for the entire game? I mean, I'm not sure if this question even matters.
Yeah, we'll see. This is the point in the game where Max is going to try and do 2 things. He's going to try and finish out the game as fast as possible while also not letting Owen have an opportunity to steal a win.
Right.
That dissolve that we've seen Max hold up, I'd imagine he will not let that guard down for the rest of the game.
Now we saw there he tapped out for Jace, Architect of Thought. We're looking here. It looks like we have to correctly tap the mana for it. That shouldn't actually change any lines here. So he plays Jace, pluses the Jace, drops Ratchet Bomb, makes tokens, passes the turn. Owen with 1 card in hand left. He has Max down to 5, so maybe it seems like Owen's last out is to try to burn Max from 5. But with that dissolve, it seems like that's gonna be a pretty tall order.
Yeah, I think Owen might actually have a shock in hand, so maybe he's just hoping to draw Lightning Strike and catch Max without a counterspell. But as we know, Max has the dissolve.
Yeah, Fire Drinker Satyr by Owen, and you're right. That last card is shock. It looks like it's the onslaught shock.
Yeah. Owen and I had a disagreement earlier today about what shock is better, Stronghold or Onslaught.
So Owen went with the Onslaught.
Owen went with Onslaught. I bought some Stronghold ones.
Okay. But you weren't playing shock in the tournament today.
No, I wasn't. I just figured I wanted to have some shocks hanging around, and I wanted the preferred art.
Interesting. So there's 4 shocks in this deck and 0 Magma Jets.
Yeah. Owen only has 22 lands, and I just think it's a pure mana efficiency decision. Though again, Mono Red is the type of deck that when it draws a lot of lands can be in trouble. So there's definitely some real advantages to Magma Jet, but also some real advantages to shock only costing 1.
All right, so Max cast 1 was Divinations, activates Elspeth again to make more blockers, and here Owen's going to go for the win. He drew that Lightning Strike. It's going to go to the face, and here's where here's the big reveal. Max is going to go ahead and dissolve that Lightning Strike. Scry, can't really decide on it.
It looks like Max put that card in his hand from Scry, so maybe Owen cast the Lightning Strike in Max's upkeep.
Okay, yep. So we are in Max's upkeep. He just needs to make sure that he doesn't let a win slip through the cracks here.
Yeah.
Right? And it seems like there's burn spells to the dome that he has to make sure he plays around. When he's plussing the Jace and the Elspeth every turn, is there any, that's almost it, isn't it?
Yeah, looking at Owen's list, the only thing that could even get through this wall of tokens is the Chandra's Phoenix, and even that would only be for 1 damage with the Jace. So with Max at 5 and Owen's only card is a shock, it looks like we're just looking at Lightning Strike. I think Max has a Syncopate too, so.
Okay. And with the amount of lands. All right. Owen's going to continue coming. Burning Tree, Emissary, no other creature, passes the turn. This is really what Max just needs to show that he can win the game at some point.
Yeah, I bet Owen's trying to extract a little bit of information about, what Max's win conditions are, what type of spells he might be playing.
All right, so Emblem there by Elspeth gets the concession from Owen, and Max is up 1 game to 0. A close game there. Really, it seems like the relevant part of the game was over by about turn 6 at that game. Once we saw that, we had this board set, remember, where Max's hand was Supreme Verdict, Attention Sphere, Sphinx's Revelation, and I almost felt at that point like Max couldn't lose anymore.
Yeah, one thing to keep in mind, and I think a lot of control players often do this, is you get to a point where you're casting this big Sphinx's Revelation and you're maybe 90% to win the game, but those turns when you're that far ahead are just as important to play tightly and well as the early turns. And I think some people might lose games they were going to win because they get too comfortable in that situation.
Some people just like they Revelation for 5 and like, oh yeah, I got there. I got 8 mana Revelation. All right, this is easy mode, and then they lose.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, okay.
And that's why Owen stuck it out there, because I'm sure once the Revelation resolved, Owen knew that he was most likely going to lose, but he was just waiting for, maybe Max drew 5 lands, or maybe Max is going to, tap his mana at the wrong time or something. And Max is a good player, so I wouldn't necessarily expect that out of him.
Yeah, but even so, Owen will play for it. We saw this matchup happen once earlier on camera when Owen won. He took both games in 12 minutes. We've already had 15 minutes past. That one's not going to be a repeat performance. One of the interesting things that we wanted to discuss was that for this board, this matchup, he's not playing any. We first looked at the sideboard and said, okay, he's going to board in Burning Earth. But actually Owen has 0 Burning Earths in his sideboard. He's instead opted for 2 Hammer of Perforoses in the matchup.
Yeah, well, and looking at Max's list, he's got 16 basic lands, so Burning Earth against these straight blue-white decks is definitely not as impressive as it might be against an Esper deck or a blue-white-red deck. And I wouldn't be surprised to see that be a trend in New Standard, as Burning Earth seeing less play.
Yeah, so at least a lot of decks today we've seen, with the exception of Esper control, I think it seems like most of the decks are 1 or 2 colors right now.
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate, and there definitely just seem to be more basic lands floating around.
Yeah, so we know that the Hammers come in for Owen, probably a Skullcrack to interact with Sphinx's Revelation. It doesn't seem like he has too many more weapons here. A lot of things we see, Peak Eruption, Flames of the Firebrand, clearly not for this matchup.
No, Flames of the Firebrand is sort of an interesting card because it might be able to help get through an Elspeth on a critical turn. But I wouldn't expect Owen to bring in, maybe more than one of those. We're really looking for Owen to just take out the shocks here and replace them with better cards.
So, Flames is an upgrade to shock. It's 1 more damage, but it is a lot more expensive.
Yeah.
So it seems like, he has the option of like hitting harder or hitting faster. You can say like hitting faster still seems like the game plan here.
Yeah, the Hammers will help a little bit with the late game if he can resolve one, but Owen's plan is to still be as aggressive as possible, for sure.
Over on Max's side of the board, this is where things I think have gotten kind of interesting. Blue-White has a lot of new sideboard options right now in the meta.
Yeah, it looks like Max has access to 2 Yoked Ox, which
Right.
is the white Kraken hatchling, as it were, an 0/4 for 1 white mana.
So is this an upgrade? I did see some Blue-White control decks playing Kraken hatchling, but now you get to have Yoked Ox.
Yeah, I really don't know which one is better. I guess Blood Baron gets through Yoked Ox, so
Okay.
If Kraken Hatchling were legal, I wouldn't be surprised.
Or Kraken hatchling was only in M13.
That's true.
Okay,
yeah.
so you can't play
You
Kraken
can't play
hatchling.
Kraken Hatchling anymore. Yoked Ox is definitely a new player. And it looks like Max also has a couple more interactive spells. He's got 1 Celestial Flare and 2 Last Breaths, which I bet will come in. He's also got access to Pithing Needle, which is a good card against Hammer, but he definitely wouldn't bring it in here.
Yeah, I don't know if Max even knows to expect a Hammer right now, whether he's been watching it. He was watching Owen's rounds, but...
Yeah, and I think even if he knew Owen had them, it's just, it's too big a risk to have a dead card.
So one of the cards that we've actually seen a little bit of sideboard play today in Blue-White control has been Last Breath. So White actually is starting to get a lot of good, a lot of cards that can play 2 mana to deal with creatures. We get Celestial Flare, we get Last Breath, we get Glare of Heresy. You started seeing a lot of these getting played. Max has some of each. He has 1 Flare, 3 Glares, 2 Last Breaths.
Yeah, and 3 Negates, which sort of round out the 2 mana set of interactive spells. So yeah, I think especially with the divinations at 3, Max has really made a commitment to trying to interact with Owen on turn 2, and hopefully slow him down to get to a Supreme Verdict or a Jace.
Right.
And one interesting thing is with Celestial Flare, with 8 islands and 2 Mutavaults in the deck, it might not always be a 2-mana spell.
Okay, so Last Breath has the advantage of just being, you can actually cast it always.
Yeah, Max will almost certainly be able to always cast that on turn 2.
All right, so these opening turns proved to be really pivotal last game. Owen on the play, again, starts out with Rakdos Cackler, drops Max to 18. Max started on Plains, but did not have the Yoked Ox start. And it looks like Owen is going to go for the triple 1-drop start you're talking about. This is Fire Drinker Satyr, and Foundry Street Denizen.
Yeah, this is a great start for Owen. It's really going to put Max to the test, and none of them even have the same name, so a potential detention sphere coming down on turn 3. It looks like without Ratchet Bomb that Owen's certainly in the driver's seat in the early turns here.
So we saw no Ratchet Bomb. We saw no Yoke Docks. Is it safe then? Do you expect Azorius Charm here?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you can play around it at all.
No, Owen's certainly attacking with all his creatures as we see a Chandra's Phoenix come down. But I think Max certainly has an interactive spell here. It looks like a Last Breath on the Chandra's Phoenix. Pretty cool interaction with the Exile there, taking out a card that might otherwise be a problem in the late game.
Yeah, so that'll send Owen up to 24. More importantly, that is another 6 damage. Max will drop down to 12. Owen with that turn 3 Chandra's Phoenix also found time to make a Mutavault that turn, as he really has put a large presence on the board.
Yeah, and with access to Mutavault and Fire Drinker Satyr, Owen definitely has some ways to use his mana this turn without committing more to the board.
One question is, if he would commit a Hammer of Perforos, it looks like he's going to go ahead and throw the rest of his creatures, and he goes with Burning Tree Emissary.
Yeah, well, this way he gets a trigger off the Foundry Street Denizen, so that's probably why he's playing it here.
How is that? And that's better than pumping Fire Drinker Satyr?
Well, he's actually able to do both. He can use the green mana to activate the Mutavault, and then the 2 red mana to activate the Fire Drinker Satyr.
So we see one extra point there. Owen's really being as efficient as possible. The Satyr is Azorius Charmed, but that means that Max is taking 2, 4, 6. He drops down to 6 life, drawing Fire Drinker Satyr next turn. Owen down to 1 card, and Max misses the 4th land.
Yeah, Max passing the turn here, certainly very good for Owen. Looks like we're going to get a Foundry Street Denizen trigger. Yep. Activate the Mutavault.
Redraws Fire Drinker Satyr, goes for a swing of 8. Max needing to take care of 2 creatures, cannot, and we are on to a game 3.
Yeah, so I wasn't in the booth for Owen's last win against Blue-White, but I'm guessing that
was game 1.
We
Game
saw.
1 was a turn 4 win. It was the control deck made it to turn 4, didn't have the Supreme Verdict and lost. And game 2 was actually the control deck had a lot of its. The game 2 was the interesting one. He was playing against Esper, and his opponent actually managed to have turn 2 Precinct Captain on the play. Followed up with and then Last Breath something, but then Owen managed to resolve a Hammer of Perforos, and the control deck really just had no way to interact with it, and that card by itself pretty much took the game.
Yeah, it pretty much forces an immediate detention sphere, especially if we're assuming Max is taking out some of his counter spells in the matchup. And yeah, the Hammer's just really going to help Owen put away the game if he ever manages to land it.
So I want to look a little bit at boarding for Max. So we saw he kept in the Elspeth Suns Champions.
Yeah.
That's certainly the way that he closes out the game. So the cards that when I'm looking at Blue-White, it looks like he almost wants to devote his entire deck to surviving the early game, and then he needs to hit either a Revelation or an Elspeth.
Yeah.
We know he wants to board in Last Breaths and Yoke Doxes and Celestial Flares, more of that small removal, but it's like, where do you find the space to cut cards? Is it does he have time to cast Divination? Yeah,
it looks like Max has 5 cards to bring in here. I would certainly imagine that Max is bringing out the Aetherling, and honestly, I would personally even considering cutting one of the 2 Elspeths. I think one of the easiest ways to lose from the Blue-White side is drawing too many of your expensive spells.
So at that point, you really just have 1 Elspeth in your deck.
Yeah, you have 1 Elspeth. I guess it's pretty dangerous. You have Jason Mutavault, but yeah, he probably has to keep in both Elspeths. So I'd imagine he's going to take out Aetherling, probably the 2 Dissolves, and then some combination of the remaining Divinations, Syncopates, and Essence Scatters. But the counter spells in this matchup, especially seeing a version like Owen's deck, which doesn't have a ton of expensive spells.
But you're gonna keep in the Quicken.
Yeah, the Quicken's kind of a funny velocity card. It could really help with Supreme Verdict against haste creatures or Mutavaults.
Oh man, okay, so yeah, you could Quicken. Yeah, you could kill a Mutavault with the Quicken.
Yeah, or a Hammer token that just came into play or something like that. I could certainly see him boarding out the Quicken.
Yeah. One card we've been seeing some play in, which actually Max isn't playing, I just kind of wanted to know what your thoughts on here. If stuff like Hammer Perforos starts seeing play, Blind Obedience has kind of been an answer we've seen in a lot of these Blue-White decks. Max not running any of it. Your thoughts though? It's like a good answer to haste creatures. I don't know how relevant the life gain is off the card.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem for Blind Obedience in the standard right now is the loss of all these cheap cantrips like Think Twice and Thought Scour, and that's really where you got to get your value out of the extort triggers. You know, the rotation of Thundermaw Hellkite as well as Hellrider means there's less haste creatures in standard, so it'll be interesting to see where Blind Obedience fits in.
All right, so we're on game 3. Max on the play starts out on Hallowed Fountain, tapped, and Owen keeps a hand without a 1-drop. Owen did keep a 7. My read on this has always been if the red deck doesn't play 1-drop, I'm expecting at least 1 Burning Tree Emissary.
Yeah, I would certainly expect a Burning Tree Emissary here, but it looks like Owen just has a Gorehouse Chainwalker.
Yeah, Max makes a turn 2 Ratchet Bomb, so he cranks it up to 1, Owen with the Chainwalker, but Max has made it to turn 3 without taking any damage.
You know, and with the Ratchet Bomb coming down, I think there's a small chance that Owen might have even had an Emissary draw and chosen not to use it there.
So he just doesn't want to double commit 2 drops?
Yeah, but you know, that would certainly put Max in the driver's seat of having a little bit more time to stabilize. And
here goes, it's no Kraken Hatchling, but he's going to go ahead and cast Yoke Dox this turn.
Yeah, how much Yoke Dox did you guys see yesterday in the sealed?
We saw none.
Okay,
none yesterday.
So Yoke Dox better in standard than it is in sealed.
Right, so Yoke Dox is a 0/4 with no abilities, but it's, you know, it's a good wall. It can even attack, but it doesn't really have to. We do see a Mutavault and Chandra's Phoenix with Owen, so he's gonna be able to fly over, get some damage through. But this game seems hugely in Max's favor right now. He's actually gonna last breath the Chandra's Phoenix to keep his life total at 20.
Sort of an interesting attack there with the Gorehouse Chainwalker. It might look to some people like that's maybe pointless, but Owen was actually playing around Celestial Flare there.
Okay, so because the Chainwalker is not a relevant card anyway.
Yeah, the Chainwalker is sort of shut down by the Yoke Dox, so Owen was trying to protect his Phoenix from the Flare.
All right, Ratchet Bomb clears the Owen's board and is replaced by another Ratchet Bomb for Max. He's now down to 2 cards in hand. It looks like Owen is not going to win the early game, but he's going to have to try to go late with this deck.
Yeah, and that Ox is going to continue to provide problems for him, though Owen does have a Fire Fist Striker in hand. So
this means maybe, because there's a Ratchet Bomb, right, Owen can start playing 1-drops into this board?
Yeah, and Max's Ox would get caught up.
Right.
So
not ideal, but...
Not ideal, but, you know, playing 2 1-drops would still just be a 2-for-2 in Max's favor instead of a 2-for-1.
So here we go, we see Fire Fist Striker from Owen. He resolves, then he follows it up with Fire Drink Crusader, passes the turn. Ratchet Bomb goes up to 1. Fire Fist Striker is no Goblin Shortcutter, but so you see there, 2/1, and when he hits Battalion, a creature can't block. With Mutavault, this actually stops Yoke Dox right now.
Yeah, this attack would shut down the Yoke Dox unless Max were to choose to use his Ratchet Bomb, which would also shut down the Yoke Dox.
Okay, so Owen's actually able to successfully navigate past a 0/4. I'm seeing a Detention Sphere come into play. That's going to go ahead and hit Fire Drink Crusader.
Yeah, so Max is demonstrating his desire to keep the Ox in play by taking out the 1-drop and leaving the 2.
So, interestingly, Max didn't hit his 5th land. He just has single blue right now. He's down to 2 cards. You know, it looks like he's having a little bit of difficulty going late at the moment. Like, he doesn't, you know, he survived the early game better than anyone could have hoped, but he's not able to close out right now.
It looks like we got a Lightning Strike here from Owen. So yeah, Max is, you know, his first couple turns went really well, but he's certainly going to need to have a good follow-up here.
So Max now down to 18 from the hit of Fire Fist Striker. Ratchet Bomb was cranked to 2. It looks like he's getting it ready to hit that Fire Fist Striker. Owen with only 2 cards in hand, 5 lands, one of which is a Mutavault. And Max does hit his 5th land, it's a 2nd blue, and now Jace Architect of Thought is online.
Yeah, and this is going to prove to be a huge problem for Owen. You know, with mostly 2-power creatures in his deck, the Jace is going to be tough to work through. Looks like Owen does have a Lightning Strike, so if he manages to get 2 damage onto the Jace this turn, he'll be able to deal with it.
So it looks like he can get 1 damage on here in this attack. He swings Mutavault and Fire Fist Striker at the Jace.
Yeah, and Max has a decision to make with the Ratchet Bomb. Looks like he's pretty aware of Lightning Strike there.
Yeah, he didn't. You almost want to get greedy there and be like, yeah, Jace can take 2. Max does play around that. but that gives Owen the opportunity to resolve Hammer of Perforos.
Yeah, and now this is Owen's real late game card. This is his chance in the late game. And with 5 lands in play, this is just going to be a stream of golems coming at Max.
Yeah, this card almost single-handedly won a matchup against Esper Control earlier today. The thing is, it's going to have to do 18 points of work right now, with a Jace already on the board.
Yeah, and Max cast Divination there, and I think I saw the dreaded Revelation come off the top for him. So, Owen's going to have to win this game and quick.
Right. I mean, can this Hammer get it, kind of get through this? Is this, looking at this board, I mean, obviously Hammer's really good here.
The Hammer does provide a ton of inevitability, but it might just be too little too late here.
All right, so we see Owen drawing a third card. He has a Fire Fist Striker in hand. Remember, all his creatures actually have haste right now.
Yeah, so with 5 mana, Owen would be able to, say, play a 2-drop and make a Golem. Even still, that might not be enough to come across and kill the Jace.
Yeah, the Jace was plussed this turn once again, so everything's going to be shrunk. So Owen starts on Foundry Street Denizen. Excellent. Follows up with Goblin Shortcutter, which is just a 2-1 right now.
Yep. So Owen has the power to attack for just 2 here.
Yeah, he's not activating the Mutavault here.
To me, that would really smell like a Lightning Strike if I were Max. Given the way Owen attacked last turn, I think it's pretty clear that he has it. Now, I think Max has a Celestial Flare in hand.
Max, you see right here, is kind of puzzling this out. It is telling that Owen left up the Mutavault. It's like, oh, well, you didn't swing Mutavault. So it's not, it can't be a creature because that would have gotten played. It can't be, it's pretty much is just a tell on Lightning Strike.
Yeah, I don't, unless Owen was trying to preserve his Mutavault from an Azorius Charm for some reason, but I think he pretty clearly has the strike, and Max is just trying to decide, is my Jace worth it? Now that I have this Revelation, do I need Jace to win the game?
Would your answer be yes?
I think keeping the Jace in play would really mitigate the damage the Hammer's going to do, but at the same time, I think Max is just worried about, a Golem in the future or some sort of, maybe even a Stormbreath Dragon. Obviously that's not in Owen's deck, but Max doesn't necessarily know that.
Yeah, so Max decides to not Celestial Flare. The Jace goes down. Max's hand now, Celestial Flare, Azorius Charm, and as you said, Sphinx's Revelation.
So it's possible that this is Max's Revelation turn, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him cast his 2 interactive spells, hope to draw a 7th land, and let the Revelation take him home.
So now that the Jace is gone, it's weird. This was a game that I kind of thought was tied up for Max. I kind of can see Max not getting there right now.
Yeah, I actually think Owen has a good chance to win this game as we see the Hammer start to go to work.
So does that make you wish that the Jace was still there? I feel like if a Jace was in play, I would feel a lot better about this board.
Yeah, I definitely would too. I think Jace would really help. Owen's going to provide a swarm of creatures, and the Jace just gets better and better as more creatures, come into play to fight it. Jace would have been another 7 life gained here.
Yeah, so Owen makes a Golem, activates Mutavault, swings the whole team. So that's a Mutavault for 2, Golem for 3, Shortcutter for 2, Foundry Street just for 1. So it's a swing of 8. Max at 8, a healthy 18, but that's something that's going to get chopped down really fast by this Hammer.
Yeah, and it looks like Max is going to go for the 2 removal spells here, although he's reconsidering.
He's going to lead with Celestial Flare. Owen's going to go ahead and choose Foundry Street Denizen. And now we see Azorius Charm. That will probably hit the Golem token.
Yep. So Owen's going to get in for 4. Oh, and another Mutavault.
All right, so now we are on the Revelation turn, I'd presume. Owen's threatening once again to make a Golem and activate a Mutavault and swing 7. Revelation for 3 hits Essence Scatter, Revelation, and a 3rd card. But no land for Max.
Fire Drinker Satyr off the top for Owen.
Yeah, so if we have Fire Drinker Satyr, And you double activate the Mutavaults? Yeah, he's going to go ahead and not make a Golem. That's a swing for 8.
Yeah, and this play really sort of preserves his lands around Supreme Verdict. So if Owen were to make a Golem, that would make Supreme Verdict more devastating for Max. But this way, even after a Wrath, Owen would have plenty of ammo for his hammer.
Yeah, so even post-Wrath, Owen can swing 7 damage, it looks like right now.
Yeah.
Well, he can't swing it all in one turn, doesn't have enough lands for that, but at least can swing 5, which is pretty good for a red deck with no cards in hand.
Yeah, I think this game is really just showing us the power of the hammer. Max, a Supreme Verdict might not be good enough. He might need a Supreme Verdict and a Detention Sphere.
Yeah, and this is really impressive, at least for me here. This is the first I saw the hammer win against Esper, but Owen was ahead when he played the hammer. This is a situation where I would have sworn when I saw the Jason the Revelation that I was kind of counting this game as over, but that's clearly not the case anymore.
No, I would even argue that Owen's in the driver's seat here. Max does have a Revelation, but Owen's threatening a lot of damage with the Mutavaults and his hammer. And another haste creature off the top.
Right, so every creature is a haste creature here. We saw a Yoked Ox from Max. Owen drew a Cackler off the top, which will be Essence Scattered by Max. And Max's land for the turn was a Mutavault. So right now, though Owen could swing with up to 4 creatures. He may not want to trade away a Mutavault. Max has up to 2 blockers because at a dangerous 9 life.
Yeah, so an all-out attack here from Owen would put Max down to 5, assuming the Mutavault's the only activation. But it looks like Owen's going to make a Golem, and again preserve those Mutavaults, which are really valuable should a Supreme Verdict come down.
Yeah, so we have Hammer makes a Golem out of another mountain. So we have Fire Drink Crusader, a Golem token, and Goblin Shortcutter swinging in, Yoked Ox and Mutavault from Max. Max looks like he's going to trade away the Mutavault. That is going to shrink a possible Sphinx's Revelation in the future. This is better on life. It's worse on cards. For that Revelation that might come at some point.
Yeah, exactly.
And this attack smells like an Azorius Charm. So he's gonna charm the Golem, trade with the Satyr, block the Shortcutter, take 0. Owen takes 1. What do you feel about the Mutavault block there? I think that's the most interesting decision.
Yeah, I think Max is really just weighing the value of an extra card versus 2 life, and at this point in the game, though he does have the Revelation, I think that the life is more valuable than the cards. Max is going to need to draw a very specific subset of cards to get him out of here.
All right, so Max's draw was a 7th land, has 1 card. It's the second time this game is left with 1 card in hand, but it is a Sphinx's Revelation. Owen with a really great draw here it's Fire Fist Striker, so Yoked Ox will not do anything. He swings with Mutavault, Shortcutter, Striker, Ox can't block. That's a swing for 6. Max will gain 4 in response, so he's only going to take 2 this turn. He's going to reload once again. You see land, Etherling Jace.
I think there might have been an Elspeth in there.
So Elspeth is what that's probably what would you say that's like the card he needs to get to?
Yeah, I'd say Elspeth is maybe the best card Max could have drawn here. Just gonna make some blockers.
All right, Elspeth ticks up to 5, makes 3 soldier tokens. All right, so Owen was in the driver's seat and we both agreed on it. Is that still the case? Elspeth. He has Elspeth and 2 mana up. I don't believe he has a trick for that 2 mana. I think the board is he's playing as is here.
Yeah, Elspeth really just threatens to start grinding down Owen's board position here. Owen can make attacks, might not even get any damage, and the soldiers just, as soon as that Fire Fist Striker's off the table, the ground is pretty much locked down.
All right, 3rd Mutavault for Owen. He's going to go ahead and activate Hammer. This time he's sacrificing a Mutavault. Probably no way he can actually activate 3 of them. He makes a Golem token, activates the other Mutavault, and it looks like he's swinging the team. Yoked Ox can't block. This will push through 2 damage, I believe.
Yep.
Looks like 3 with how Max is blocking. And this has to go at Max, right? Not at the. There's no way that Owen's killing the Elspeth.
No, I think Owen's just got to hope to win the game through the Elspeth. Though, yep, that Mutavault block again signals an Azorius Charm for the Golem token, and that was just a perfectly efficient use of mana for Max. 6 for the Elspeth, 2 for the Azorius Charm, and he seems to have once again turned the tides.
Yeah, so that Sphinx's Revelations before ended up getting a Jace, an Elspeth, an Azorius Charm, and that land, and the 8th land all at once.
Yep.
It's like, seemed almost perfect for what he needed in this situation.
Yeah, you know, Elspeth was the card he was looking for most, and Azorius Charm really just put the nail in the coffin and threatened to, you know, prevent Owen from drawing out of it.
Yeah, Jace has been plus, so there's the -1/-0. Elspeth up again to 6, making 3 more blockers. Owen just drew Mountain for the turn.
And like we saw last game, you know, Owen's going to stick it out despite how good this game looks for Max. And Max is just going to make sure that Owen can't draw out of it or burn him out, and then try to end the game relatively quickly with an Aetherling.
Yeah, so he makes Aetherling, now has 6 power blockers. He actually doesn't swing any of the soldiers yet, playing it very conservatively.
Yeah, you know, last game Max basically waited for the ultimate and used the flying to kill Owen all in one turn, and I think he's demonstrating, you know, basically the same idea here.
Yeah, his last card now is Dissolve. He's going to go ahead and make that emblem. That emblem should be enough. Remember, Yoked Ox looks like he's going to get to attack.
Yeah, we do see the Ox getting in for maybe 2 with flying here.
And this should be a lethal swing. Max on
There's
sideways. All right, so Max Teitze moves to 8-0. That should lock him a spot in our top 8. Owen is now at 7-1. We'll need at least 1 more win, possibly 2 to get into the top 8. That match, okay, actually went to 40 minutes despite having a mono red deck in it. We're gonna see, normally I'd say we wouldn't have another match, but it is very possible the other match is a control mirror. So we'll see.